welcome to Pen to Paper's latest episode. Today we are talking about the pros of traditional publishing. We've already covered the pros and cons of self-publishing and the cons of traditional publishing, and today we are talking about the pros of traditional publishing. I am Leah Lindeman, author of the Canadian Reminiscence series. You can check out the links down below in the description for where you can buy my books, or even just take a look at them if you're interested. Also, I have a newsletter that I send out monthly. You can go sign up for that. And let's dive into today's subject. I know that from the past videos, it may seem I am biased towards self-publishing, and of course I'm going to have some bias toward it because I'm self-published myself. However, as you can see, there are pros to traditional publishing, which does lend me to the idea that I may one day like to be traditionally published. Definitely not with my current series that I'm working with right now because of what my goals are for the series and my vision for the series. But for future series or for future books, it is something that I might consider. So I'm not completely biased against traditional publishing. There is a space for that. And for certain people, that is the way they should go, and that's okay. Everybody's writing journey is different and publishing journey, and we need to celebrate authors from both ends and work together because there's space for all of us, and we're all here to support each other, indie, traditionally published, no matter what. So today's first pro that I want to talk about is if you're someone who only wants to write, you have no interest in making your own book trailers. You have no interest in editing your own work and putting that time into finding beta readers to look at your work. You just want to write. You want to wake up at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and you want to go to your office and sit down in your computer chair, whether in your PJs or you're in your regular clothes. You want the cup of coffee and you want to write from 9 to 11 and then maybe take a little break, have some lunch, and then again write from, hey kitties, write from 2 to 4. And you want to just put the work into those writing times, just write, and then that's it. Your work for the day is done. Because you are a full-time author backed by a traditional publishing house and you can afford this lifestyle of just writing. If that's what you want, if that's what you crave, then this is for you. And this is a pro that traditional publishing houses give to writers that they are backing. Now, don't get me wrong. Once the editor has taken a look at your manuscript many, many times, you do have to go back to it and rewrite it until it meets the requirements and happiness of your editor and all those who have put their hands on top of it. But if that's what you look forward to, because you know that your product is going to be sellable and probably liked by a vast majority of people, then this is the way to go. Pro number 2 is that you are backed by experts. You are backed by expert editors and expert designers and expert cover artists and expert marketers and expert whatever's people that are necessary to finish a book, backed by a traditional publishing house, especially the bigger ones that are going to go out onto the mass market and be available to millions of people in stores worldwide or nationwide at least. Then traditional publishing offers that. That is part of the deal when you are an author taken in by a traditional publishing house. So if you are not too sure that, or maybe not as confident, or maybe you're just not even interested in having a hand in these other things, you just want to write, and this is kind of part of pro number 1, then you have all these people that are given to you by the traditional publishing house to be part of your team to make your book come to life and hit the shelves with some degree of success that they are allocating for your book, that they believe your book will acquire. Number 3 is marketing access. Now, as when you are backed by a traditionally published house, they have a certain budget assigned for marketing your book. They have access to bookstore distributors. You are going to receive national coverage with bookstores, online chains, newspaper, radio, maybe even TV coverage. Depending on how big your traditional publisher is, these things are a very real possibility that are part of your budget. However, let me just make this very clear. Whether you're self-published or whether you're traditionally published, you need to market anyways. And that's why it is a pro, because they do have a budget, somewhat of a budget set aside for you. How big the budget is, there's a variety of factors that depend on that, because remember, you're not the only author that they are backing. They have hundreds, or I don't know how many authors they have, depending on the size of the publisher again, but they may have they have a slew of authors that they are putting out to market, perhaps even at the same time. So you are not the only one that they need to budget for in terms of marketing. You still need to market, and you still need to have a social online platform, even though you're traditionally published. But however, when you are with a traditional publisher, you do have certain access to certain resources that would be definitely a lot harder for a self-published author to have access to, unless you've really made a name for yourself and you've gained that access over time and books that you have written. And pro number 4 kind of follows pro number 3 because of all this resources and access that are granted to you under the umbrella of their name. Your name has a greater likelihood of getting out there, of people actually remembering your name or seeing your name on a shelf nationwide, compared to being self-published, where you have to fight for the ground that you gain online, even in bookstores where you have to contact them yourselves. Your book as a traditionally published author is just granted them as a resource, and they put that up on their shelves for you. So your name, your notoriety is given a greater chance to bloom early on as a traditionally published author. As you know, an advance is an amount of money that the traditional publisher gives to the author, and you only recoup, or you only receive royalties once the advance payment has been recouped in book sales. Meaning that, let's say you got an advance of $5,000 because you're a first-time author and they don't really want to put too much of a risk on you or a chance on you, so that's how much you're going to get. And once the book sales have reached $5,000, then the dollar after $5,000 and all the dollars after that, you will receive your royalties from, and they will receive their payment from, but not before the $5,000 has been hit. Now, $5,000 is very low if you really think about it. $5,000 can be spent within a month or two, and there you go, that's it. So that's not much of an advance. So in that sense, it could be a con, but depending, now there's a lot of factors. Now it could range from $5,000 to $50,000, but there's a lot of different factors that could determine how much of an advance you're going to get, depending on how much of a social online platform you have, how passionate the book editor is about your book. Are you a first-time author, or have you sold several different books through them? Also dependent is the power of the book concept. How relevant is it to today's culture? How much buzz is it going to create? Of course, the size of your publisher. Now, with a smaller publisher, they might give you a $5,000 advance, especially if you're a first-time author. With a bigger publisher, and if perhaps you've already sold a book or two, you will receive more on the $50,000 advance. But just realize that, anyways, you know how often or how much you spend your money, and it's a pro definitely more on the $50,000 side. As I said, I am definitely looking forward to looking into traditional publishing at a certain point of time in my life, just not right now. Next week's video, we're going to look into, well, how do you make the choice between self-publishing and traditional publishing? I know the pros, I know the cons, but how do I make the decision? We're going to look into a few things on that, and perhaps maybe I can help you make that decision. So until next week, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell down below, and we're going to take a look at that next week. Stay tuned.